And we'll speak to Derek Grossman, Professor of International Relations at the University of Southern California. Derek, thanks for joining us. You're watching this summit unfold just as we are. Do you see this as China positioning itself as the clear alternative to the US global leadership that we've seen up until now?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I do think it is part and parcel of that approach, but let's also be clear that China has been doing this now for the better part of 2 decades to try to compete against the United States diplomatically, economically, militarily, and I guess more recently, technologically. And so this is, I mean, what we've seen, in the past couple of days with China hosting the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, and then what we're about to see with the World War II Victory Day parade. You have North Korean leader Kim Jong-un there. Of course, Russian President Vladimir Putin is still there, and many other leaders are going to be attending. This is China trying to show the world that it is now not only a great power, but also an ascendant, potentially superpower that could surpass the United States in the global order. And the United States, I must say, is not doing itself any favors. In fact, I'm on the record as saying recently that we are self-destructing under the Trump administration because we are implementing things like reciprocal tariffs across the board. We are no longer the center of globalization and free trade. We also are undermining our own alliances and partnerships. I mean, look at what we've done in the last few months with India. And so that's, where we are. And I think China is benefiting quite significantly from it.
Let me just dig into that for 1 second. Trump has claimed that he's offered to cut the tariffs to nothing for India, but they've yet to respond to this as well. How likely do you think it is that we'll see this big turnaround, an almost 180 from the Trump administration?
Well, I do think that the Trump administration has bitten off more than it can chew with India. First, it started with 25% reciprocal tariffs, and then reportedly, because of the Trump administration's displeasure with India's relationship with India and importing discounted barrels of Russian oil, they slapped another 25% on. So now we're at 50%. But I mean, to your point, could there be a quick turnaround? Could there be a quick deal, right? I think Trump certainly thinks so because he has a very good relationship with Modi, or at least did up until recently. But that remains to be seen. And I think, if you talk to Indian interlocutors, which I do all the time, or, senior Indian government officials, they will tell you that a lot of damage has been done in terms of their trust of the United States. Now that trust is turned into distrust. And that is going to take a long time to repair. I don't think it's like a light switch that could be turned on and off. We're hearing reports that Trump has tried to call Modi on 4 separate occasions, and Modi has declined. And now Trump is not going to attend the Quad summit to be held in New Delhi later this month, right? So things are really unraveling quickly. That's not to say that India is going to have a better relationship with China than it does with the United States simply because of the last few days. I don't think that's the case either. But I do think that the United States under the Trump administration isn't doing itself any favors in terms of keeping India closer in order to implement its Indo-Pacific strategy of countering China.
Derek, I want to, because Russia, China, North Korea, big players on the stage here at the SCO. What is the wider signal that's here, not just for the US, but also their allies in Europe and in Asia?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the signal is that we don't necessarily need the United States. And in fact, if the United States is not going to have, is not going to have a seat at the table, at the dinner table, that is, then the United States is on the menu. Right. So if the United States is not going to play ball with the rest of the world, then China will have kind of an alternate global order. Right now, also, we need to put this into context. As an analyst, I'm always trying to put stuff into context. Right. The SCO has been ongoing now for decades. Right. And it just so happens, coincidentally, that the SCO was hosted by China this year. Could have been hosted by India or Pakistan or Russia or another member of the SCO, this year. But it just so happened that it was China, right? And I think that that was very much to China's strategic benefit, because the timing is such that the United States continues to self-destruct with these reciprocal tariffs, and with trying to withdraw itself from the international system and no longer upholding international law and norms of behavior, that now China can come in and say, well, if the US doesn't want this position of power anymore, right, this not just symbolic position, but also this substantive, influential position, then we are willing and able to take it on. I saw that the Chinese spokesperson just yesterday issued a new graphic on the membership of the SCO, and they are now rightly saying that the SCO is the largest regional organization in the Indo-Pacific. It has surpassed ASEAN, the ASEAN Summit, and the ASEAN Regional Forum and the East Asia Summit, right? So China is at the center of this group, not as a partner or a member state that's sort of secondary to the core, right? But they are now at the core of this regional architecture. And let's not forget, it's not just SCO, right? But it's also the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, that makes up a very large percentage of the global economy based on GDP. China's also at the center of that. So if the US is not going to play by, its own rules, right, and uphold its own rules that were established after the end of World War II, well, new rules will be written that the US will later have to deal with.
Derek Grossman in LA, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.